Hey everyone, we are back for day 6 of Advent of Code. We're writing everything in Ruby. Advent of Code is a 25-day coding challenge that happens every day in December every year up until Christmas. Usually I get very distracted with life, other things, so I don't follow through on this. So this year we are doing this on stream. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. We're on. So far, we have perfect score, 10 stars so far. We're not really going for speed because we're doing it like later in the day, just to make life a little easier on us. So let's get into it. Start off by making a new folder here. We're not doing debugging right now, so we can shrink this area down a bit. This is just our solution from last time. Everything has been committed to GitHub. If you go to github.com/ppm, we'll see all the solutions that we've done so far, so you can follow along. Turn down music a bit. Okay. So let's see what's up with us for day 6. If you're just joining us now, there's a lot of lore going into this. Every year, a lot of lore going into what's going on. Usually, we're saving Christmas, but not this year. This year, we're doing something different. We're taking a break. We're taking a vacation. And I think we all need a vacation. The hectic times we live in. So far, we've gone to the airport and we've had the wrong passport. We had a North Pole identification card that does not include a country, so it's not a valid passport. So we hacked the system so that we could be let in. Then we got in and we couldn't find. We lost our boarding pass, so we did shenanigans to figure out our seat. So now let's get into find out what's happening now. As your flight approaches the regional airport, where you'll switch to a much larger plane, customs declaration forms are distributed to the passengers. What is this? Okay, it's just telling us what a customs declaration form is on Wikipedia, I guess. I don't think that's all that important, right? Okay. The form asks for a series of 26 yes or no questions marked A through Z. All you need to do is identify the questions which anyone in your group answers yes. Since your group is just you, this doesn't take very long. Okay. However, the person sitting next to you seems to be experiencing a language barrier and asks if you can help. For each of the people in their group, you write down the questions for which they answer yes, one per line. For example, we have some examples there. In this group, there are 6 questions to which anyone answered yes. A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Duplicate answers of the same don't count. Another group asks for your help, and then another, and then you've collected answers from everyone. Each group's answers are separated by a blank line, and within each group, each person's answers are on a single line. Okay, so we have our input here. This is a single person. This is a group with just one person, and they answered yes to A, B, and C. Here's another group with 3 people, and one person answered A, another person answered B, another person answered C. This is another two-person group. One person answered A, B, the other answered A, C. We don't really care about the duplicate A's, though. Here's another group with a bunch of people that all answered A. Here's a group where where one person answered B. Okay, so this is just describing what we just saw there. In this example, the sum of these counts. Okay, so we're counting like unique letters here. Okay. For each group, that count the number of questions to which anyone answered yes. What is the sum of all those counts? Okay, this is pretty easy to get into here. So it's the same sort of like let's first get our puzzle input. Drag this off screen for discretion. And fit into our project. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so they aren't throwing us any weird loops by giving us bad input. All the input looks good, so we can just generally trust this. It looks like. Quick scan through. Not seeing anything capital looking here. Okay, we're good. So this is kind of a variant on what we've done in the past. First thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need a way to have every be able to collect lines of data, right? That's the first thing. And so we're gonna just borrow from problem 1 here because we have that code already. We're not gonna be reusing a lot of it, but let's get rid of this. We don't need that. So input lines we can just use as is, and what this does is it takes our input.txt file in the current directory. Read lines will take that file handle and just get us all the lines from it. And chomp, map chomp, that basically means we're going to transform this list of lines into a list of lines that has the trailing new line cut off, because we don't need that either. And is there like any sort of trailing space or anything like that here? No, the lines are clean here. Okay, so let's close out this and this and this. We have a lot of leftover junk from before. We don't need all that. Day 4. Okay, so now we're just hanging out in day 5. So we're not going to be using any of this. So, to me, the most natural way to handle this is to just... We're going to group things, obviously, by the... We're going to group the things by, like, having this, new line separator and have, like, a branching logic. I think we did something very similar to this on day 4, I think it was. So we're gonna be doing this sort of logic again, where like if line is empty, we're gonna have like a memo object of like this is what we're currently working on. When we see an empty line, we're gonna allocate a new memo object and do any like sort of processing, any sort of like this is the end of the thing processing, right? And then for everything else, we're just going to add on to our current memo. So we're gonna actually follow that pattern again here. So let's start off very simple. Input lines, each line. Hands are cold. Not typing right. Can't have that. And we're gonna have a memo. So what are we actually? Let's get rid of this misleading comment. We don't need this comment. And what are these called? Questionnaires? Let's just call it forms. Let's be short here. Let's call it a current form. We're gonna make this a hash because we don't care about the duplicate answers, and hash keys are always unique. There's also like a set type we could use, but I think I'd need to look up like how to include that and stuff, so it's not that important. If I use a set type in Ruby, I think that it basically behaves mostly like an array. But I'd have to look up the documentation on that. I'm kind of sleepy, so I'm not going to do that. Using a hash is fine here, I think. Every line, we have input like this. We have a certain number of letters. So let's split these letters. Or we could just enumerate over the letters, I guess. Just double check we can do that. Oh, hello does not have an each method, so we actually do need to split. That's really weird. They probably should just add like an each method. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Okay, where were we? So letter. So we're splitting this line into each character. We already know that the character doesn't have any new lines or space or anything. We know we took a quick look at our input and we know that it's valid. We know that it's all lowercase letters, so we're not looking for anything wonky here, right? So what we're gonna do is, oh right, we need different processing if this is an empty line. So if line equals blah blah blah. New passport. Why am I calling this a passport still? New form. And this is only going to happen otherwise, right? Okay. So we know it's not a new line. We know it's not an empty line, so we're just adding onto our passport. Form has content. Okay, so we're splitting on letter. And each letter we're just adding to the form. It doesn't really matter what the value is, because we're just checking to make sure that the keys exist. So let's just set them to 1 for now. That way, if later they need us to do anything where we're actually counting them, counting the duplicates, we can do that, and it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so that does everything we need for that. Now we have, so what this is going to do is we're going to end up with a hash table. So like, for example, on this line, it's going to split ABC into the letters A, B, C, and A and B and C are all going to be added to current form. So now what do we do? When we make a new one, maybe for now we keep like a count of all the forms. We keep a list of all the forms, maybe. I'm trying to think ahead to like what part 2 is going to be, because I don't know if we're going to need that information or need like the full form or whatever. Because if we knew that we never needed that, we don't actually need to store it. We can turn this into a map. We could have it just return the sum, and then we could reject nils. We could have this path always return nil. We could reject the nils, and then just do a summation on everything and end up with our number. But let's be a little more clean than that, because we don't know what part 2 is gonna send our way. So we're not even gonna count this, right? We're just gonna say forms. We're gonna add onto the array. We're gonna add on current form, and then current form equals a new hash. It doesn't equal a new array. So this is a very similar pattern to what we did 2 days ago. Close this out so we have a little more here. A little less distracting. Cool. Another thing that we could possibly do instead of adding it, let's actually do this rather than introduce a second loop. Because what we're doing is we're summing up all of the various forms, right? So what we can do is sum plus equals current form keys size. So we know that keys it's a hash table, so keys are always going to be unique. So this is going to make our sum have the number of unique keys there. Everything is very, very straightforward so far. So at the end, sum should be something pretty reasonable, right? What we can do, we can test it on this existing input that we have here. So let's actually just do that real quick and just give ourselves a little bit of a sanity check, because there's not much to do after we do this outside of just submitting. So let's just have a sanity check and make sure that what we're doing is reasonable. Input sample dot text. And we're just going to paste this all in. And this is exactly how it should be. Yeah, this is all exactly how it should be. There's no leading spaces. On the actual input, is there a trailing new line at the end? Because if not, we're going to need to do special casing there. Okay, there's a trailing new line at the end, so we're going to add one here as well, so that we don't need to do special casing for the sample input either. Otherwise, what we would need to do is it would get a little more annoying. We would have to afterwards, before this puts, we would need to make sure that the current form is not empty. Because if the current form if the current form had content in it, that meant that we didn't have a trailing new line, and so it never got added to the array. It never got added to the sum. So we would need to like have this post-processing twice, which is a little awkward. It's a little cringe. We don't want to do that. Cool. So let's change this to input sample, and let's make sure we didn't typo anything. We didn't. Oh, we're not even in our right directory yet. So we're on day 6. problem 01. And we ended up with the number 10. Is that what we're expecting here? We're expecting 11, so we actually blundered here. So let's do a binding pry and see where we went wrong. I'm gonna expand this up. Okay, line. Actually, let's take out the binding pry, and let's actually just do it when we're at the new line, because that way we're not spammed with this. You continue. Get me out of here. 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 Okay. So now we're just going to do it at the end of each form. So ABC. That's normal. Next. Next. Sum is 3. That's exactly what we would expect. Let's continue. Current form. We expect ABC again. Let's go up to lines. Current form is size. We expect that to be 3. Yep, that's exactly as we expect it to be. And the sum. I think that sounds pretty reasonable, right? Okay, let's continue. Current form. We expect ABC again. That's exactly what we would expect. So we're on the third group. ABC. And so we should expect the sum to be 9 now. And the sum is 9. That's exactly what we want to have here. Okay, so let's continue. Get the current form. Okay, we do expect this to be 1, because all of these right here are all A. So that should count up to exactly 1. Okay, so we're following along. So we should be at 10 now. Maybe it didn't catch the last input. That's very possible. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so it didn't catch our last input. Let's see what happened here. That's actually really interesting. I don't know why it didn't capture the last input, because it I guess we are adding a binding pry. Maybe like here. And we're just going to print out the line each time. Actually, let's just line equal line inspect. Let's not do any sort of inspector shenanigans. Let's just run through this and print out. Do good old style printf debugging. Why is this not... not registering last line, and that's very annoying. I wonder if we're going to have the same problem here. I don't know why this is happening though. Let's just add another new line on here and see if that addresses the issue. Okay, now we get to the end. That makes me a little concerned here. So let's actually take our actual input, just add a new line, because I I don't want to have to add an extra line on. That just sounds really annoying. The processing, it's easy enough to move this processing out and duplicate it, but it just is kind of annoying. It's not clean. Um, so get rid of that. And let's just run this on our actual input now, because now we have some confidence 11 was the answer we were looking for. Let's do that. Okay, so now we have 6,335. Do we trust this? Do we trust this? Do we trust this to be correct and proper and everything that we want out of this? Because if not, we're going to be in the pause champa shame, and I'm not looking forward to that. We had that yesterday. We had that the day before, but let's see if we can avoid that today. I think at a certain point in your life, you have to just trust that you've done everything you can. You've done everything proper that you possibly can, and you just rip and you go. We have the right answer. We have a gold star. Honestly, like I was trying to hype it up a little bit, but I was not surprised by that. Let's continue part 2. Let's see what they have in the store. As you finish the last group's custom declaration, you notice that you misread one word in the instructions. You don't need to identify the questions which anyone answered yes. You need to identify the questions to which everyone answered yes. Okay, that does change the algorithm a significant bit. This list represents answers from all 5 groups. In the first group, everyone, all one person. All one person? I don't think that's proper grammar right there. Answered yes to the 3 questions A, B, C. In the second group, there are no questions to which everyone answered yes. In the third group, okay, so this is the same input as before, so we can actually hold on to our sample input that we used. But yeah, so like all 3 of these are going to be hit. None of these are going to be hit. Just A, and just B here. Okay. So we're just summing up the thing that everyone had. Okay, there's a few different ways we can do this. Let me just double check. What we can do is we can delete keys. We can delete keys. Or we can store them all individually and get the union of them. I think there's syntax for that. I'm trying to think what... I think it would just be actually subtraction, I think. No. Subtraction would delete things that are in common. Let's actually look this up real quick, because I think there's nice Ruby syntax for this. Union of 2 arrays. Usually do set operations. Okay, that's not. So is it just like AND does this? A, B, C, and C, D, E. Okay, so we just use the AND operator. That I knew there was something we could do for that. Okay, so this becomes a little more complicated, but not a lot more complicated. So for each iteration, what we're going to do is we're going to store each line's stuff, like how we are currently. Okay, so let's say current user equals a new hash. We can take a memo of keys thus far. Keys for group. And we can just make that an array. Oh, we're going to need to special case the first one here. because my initial thought was that we just do, okay, we build up the current user, and instead of current form, we fill up the current user. And then we can just, like, and equals as we go along. I think it's actually easier, though. I think it's easier if we just do all of the processing in this section here. And just collect data in the second half of this if. Yeah, that's actually probably a lot easier. So current group is going to be an array of hashes. Um, and current person, that can be scoped to the current person is a hash, and we're going to say current person letter equals 1, so this all stays relatively the same. Except we add on to the current group at the end. So what we're doing now is we're just going to have a memo of the current group of people. We're not really using forms anymore. That's not really a thing. And I don't think we're ever going to need like a master list of all forms. So we can get rid of that. And we're not... Are we using current form still? I need to fix my my Vim key bindings because it's overriding my Control F. And actually, I don't want Vim's search. I just want to have Visual Codes, Visual Studio Codes search here. Okay. Where was I here? I was looking to see if we're ever using current form. Okay, those are going away, so we can get rid of those. We do keep the sum still. I think we do keep the sum. Okay, we don't need to worry about current person. That resets itself. Current group equals a new array. That's going to be the last thing we do. For that, what do we do after? What do we do before that? We want to take the intersection of all of the we're going to take the intersection of all of the keys here. So let's say current keys. We're going to start off with the set of all keys, so that we don't need to worry about. So we can basically say, okay, we're ANDing against this constantly, and we're just shrinking the domain, and we don't need to worry about special casing the first iteration, because otherwise, like let's say that we do this and we say, okay, we have an algorithm that says we have an empty string and we're just ANDing against like what we have currently. So a and empty string is going to be empty string, so we'll never collect anything there. So let's just do this here. So we have our current group. And current group is an array. Person. So current keys and equals person keys. What this is going to do is we're going to look at, we already know that person has, person keys is going to be all the answers that person specifically did. So, like in the first case, doing and equals is going to take the union between these two things. Actually, no, we need to turn this into an array. Yeah, we need to turn that into an array first. Is there actually like a way we can just do this with sets? Because that would actually be nicer. Yeah, that's like infinitely nicer. Let's do that. So we're just using range notation to create this array for us. And it's basically the same thing as spelling out A to Z like that as before. Okay, so we're just taking the union of these arrays here. And after we go through all the groups, sum is going to equal, we're going to want to add on to the sum current keys size, because that's going to be how many are included in all of these. I think there's probably like a nicer way we can do this with inject, but then I would need to look up the documentation for inject, and I'm not going to do that. That's just madness. That's silly. We're not going to do that. Let's see. Okay, so I think what we can do is we can just test this now. There's probably some sort of syntax error that I made, probably somewhere, somehow. But that's fine. We're just going to rip it. Let's go. Oh no, I did the same thing I did last time. We're just going to live in problem 1 right now. After stream, I will edit out and make a proper problem 2. I forgot to turn it into a separate file. I always forget to do that. And it's always very sad for everyone. Just for me. I don't think anyone actually cares besides me. I care a lot, though. And it's important to care. Okay, let's try this. Okay, we already have issues. No implicit conversion from hash to array. So this is line 40. Okay, so that's just main. That's just the entry point. Line 8. Okay. Probably 26, right? That's probably where the actual issue is. Oh, current group plus equals. Current group is an array, right? So we just want to append onto the array. I don't know why I did plus equals. That's not what we want to do there. 6. Okay, is that correct? Yeah, okay, that's exactly what we expect. So maybe we're just like really lucky and we just did it correct the first time. So let's try this on our actual input, and maybe we're going to be correct and maybe we're going to have shame. But I think at this point everything seems very straightforward. I don't think we're going to have shame. I hope and pray that we don't have shame. We're going to submit and hopefully we won't have to pause champ. And we are correct. Okay, that wraps up day 6 of Advent of Code. We are done. We are finished. This has been like we had a ramp up of complexity for a little while, but now we had a drop off. This was so trivial. We're finishing this in 40 minutes. I'm actually, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to fix up problem 1 to make it actually match what we had for problem 1. We did not have this current keys nonsense. Let's just call it current group. Current group, we add the letter. And actually, we reallocate the current group up here. We initially have the current group up here. We don't make a new group for every person. Current group size. All looks. Just run problem 1 real quick and make sure that I didn't do anything weird or funky. Is that correct? Six, 7, 3, 5. Okay, that was correct. Okay, perfect. And actually, we can take a little bit of time and go back into a little bit of a refactor back here for day 4 problem 2. So we have this big. Let's actually go back into that problem. We had some validation here, where we were just like validating all these different all these fields based off of all these different parameters. We had this nasty long case when statement that's just ugly, gross. We don't want gross. We don't want ugly. We want to be pretty. Let's make a problem 2 refactor. Actually, let's call it dispatch. Because we're just going to make this into a dispatch table. Let's back up into day 4. Gonna break that down because we don't need that anymore. Let's get back into what day 4 was. For day 4, we were trying to fake passport, and initially we just said, hey, we're just going to let everyone who has all the fields in, and then later we said, hey, we actually need to validate these fields because people are getting kind of suspicious of us. That's not okay. A million people were getting on the plane, and we were just creating a international. It's actually quite embarrassing for everyone involved, and we didn't want to have anything to do with that. Okay, so the part I really wanted to get rid of is I wanted to get rid of the dispatch table. We get rid of this guy right here. I don't know if this actually makes life better, but let's actually field. Let's make a field validators, and this is just gonna be a hash that's gonna be keys and then a value. A keys and then a function that we call. So we're just going to copy our logic over. We're just going to copy the logic of each of these over. Higher. We're making these symbols just because I really don't want to have to do the normal shebang, because if you want to do a string, you have to do this sort of syntax, and that gets, I don't think that looks as nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these keys and transform it into a symbol when we actually call this. Actually, copy pasta, YR. And the nice thing about this is that if we do want to add debugging, we actually can add it in exactly one place when we call these validators. What's next? We don't actually need all of this space for our console right now, so we can shrink that down. HGT is next. It's amazing how many years I have done Vim key bindings. Like for basic navigation, I feel lost if I'm not doing Vim key binding when I'm writing code. However, beyond like the very basics, I actually am really bad at them. It's actually hilarious how bad I am. Okay, so this is HCL. HCL value. So we're just making a nice little dispatch table for this, and moving this logic out so that we can. This valid field thing is basically going to turn into a single call to this dispatch field, and I think it's a bit nicer to read. Okay, so we did HCL. These validations are very concise. I guess actually most of the more complicated ones I already moved into methods, so that's why they're so concise. PID is just...
But it's not a thing about making it accurate. It's a thing about making it feel right.
And then for our country code, because we're nasty people, always return true from that, because we are flagrant terrorists just breaking the law, trying to break out of the North Pole. That's who we are. You shouldn't feel shame about that. You should feel a little shame about that, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so you see all this junk? Let's actually just turn the key to sim, so we don't need to worry about constantly calling to sim. If
it's an accident, that's an error that feels good, then you leave
build validators, keys.
You know, you want those.
Actually, just key. We're just testing to see if the key exists. So we're just calling
It's not a thing about making it accurate.
we're just calling this lambda that we've initialized there.
About making it feel right.
And because this if statement, if the key is not there, it automatically evaluates to false. This entire function evaluates to false. So we don't need to explicitly be false there. I still haven't decided if I actually like that as a concept, as like a way of writing things. If it's better to be explicit or implicit there. So this is a bit more concise. Let's see if this still runs the way we expect it to. Because that's actually the test. If it's not running the way we expect it to, we're just still kind of, we're sad, right?
But it's not a thing about making it accurate.
Okay, we did something wrong here. We did something terrible. Oh, we missed some commas when setting up our hashes here.
It's about getting it to feel right.
Okay, we did something still wrong here. Okay, so instead of doing a constant, because this actually needs number between to exist when this is called. So let's actually memoize this. We don't need this to be a constant. Constants are kind of cringe anyway. Who wants a constant? I was actually kind of like on the fence about whether I wanted this to be a constant. I'm actually 100% okay with doing it. So we're wrapping it in a method, so that means that we don't need to worry about number between, HTT valid, all those. We don't need to worry about those existing until the very last second. And we're wrapping this up in a memoization pattern again, so that if field validators is called multiple times, which it will,
If it's an accident, there's an error that
we're only
leaves it,
defining
you
this
leave it in.
whole hash table once.
You know, you want those.
Because otherwise, every time we call it, it would like be initializing all these lambdas, and that's just kind of like a little wasteful. It wouldn't like actually hurt the logic of the code. Oh, I don't have a trailing end here. Let's trail it off. Okay, and we're still wrong here. Valid field initialize constant. Oh yeah, because we didn't change it here. Field validators. Undefined method number between. These should all. Oh, okay, because I didn't copy paste the first few. I was just wrong when I was making these. Okay. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, that might have been the problem all along. Because it's a lambda, so those are lazy loaded until we actually execute. So probably everything actually was. But still, I think it's kind of nice wrapping it in an accessor rather than a constant. That way, if we want to change the implementation down the line, we don't actually. If you have a constant, you're kind of stuck. But if you wrap it in a method, you can add more logic in and be a little more dynamic, a little more bulletproof. And this can actually be simplified now because we can actually just check to make sure we have a field validator for it. We can actually let's required fields. So now we're just saying that required fields is the list of field validators. So this should continue to work in place.
I don't know what y'all think, but I think that's pretty.
Oh wait, because we're not actually. That's actually not quite correct. Okay, so let's say valid fields, and then required fields is going to be valid fields minus, because the CID is optional. Okay, this should continue to work also. And actually, let's check to make sure that. Oh, only one is valid now. That's actually probably not correct. I probably have like a huge regression here. Has this been the thing forever? Probably. Okay. Well, that's just awkward.
You guys are so good at that.
Do these all return a truthy value? Did I miss any cases? Oh, this is a new file, so give us a comparison there. Well, we broke something here for sure. Showa. Let's compare that to our original problem too. What did you miss? You actually missed the whole thing, Bug the Cat Man. I was just going back and refactoring day 4 a little bit, but day 6 is a success. Day 6 was super easy though. If you want to take a look, this is what we did basically for part 1. We take our standard input. Yeah, day 6 was super easy. I finished that like in 40 minutes. So we basically put everything into a hash table, and then took a look at the keys afterwards. So I think that because we kind of like finished everything, I think I'm actually heading off. I don't have more to talk about here. I started looking at like refactoring Day 4's problem a little bit, but I ended up breaking it, so it's not. it wasn't a good showing there. And we'll actually commit all of this. Add refactor for Day 2. Put this in. Then this is all of our stuff for today. Oh, did I? There we go. Okay, everything is in now. Cool. Well, thanks for dropping by. We're gonna wrap this up. I'll be back tomorrow, probably close to like 7 o'clock, to do tomorrow's advent of code. Hopefully it'll be a little more challenging. This was like super easy. It's just basically not even on the right one anymore. It's basically just to throw everything into a hash table and then do some counting on the keys. Cool. I hope you guys all have a great Sunday, a nice relaxing weekend, and I'll catch you guys all next time.